T L
It's time!
W
T L
I think we got a show. Oh yeah, we got a show.
W
T L.
And welcome back, everybody, to WTL. Where's the line? Nebraska's first and only sports betting show. I'm your host, Andy Klassen, joined by
Jabron.
the Parlay Pounder. How we doing tonight?
You got it. We're back.
Yes, we are. And we got a full slate of college football coming your way. It's week one. We're over the week zero, kind of a primer, kind of a teaser, which we did very well in. We did very well there. And we'll get into that a little later on. But let's dive right into it. Let's get into a ranked matchup with some eyeballs glued to it. That is the Florida Gators heading on out to Utah, the 14th ranked Utes. They're a 6.5 point favorite. That game is going to be on ESPN, 8 o'clock, Thursday night. Jabron, what are your first thoughts, impressions? Utah being nearly a full touchdown favorite here.
I really do think, Andy, that it's going to get closer than that, closer the weekend gets to. I mean, closer Friday comes to us or Thursday comes to us, till the game starts. I mean, because the SEC really tends to win these matchups. The only thing is Billy Napier hasn't really shown that he can apply it yet at Florida. So I think Florida should have the advantage when throwing bodies at the quarterback from behind the line to run the ball with authority. But I think the Utes are, they're ranked for a reason. And I really think they're going to turn some heads here, especially with scheduling the SEC school week one. So they're looking to turn heads, and obviously they got the playmakers to do that.
Yeah, and you just look at the last 5 games of last year. Florida dropped 3 of their last 5. Utah's on the other side of that. They won 3 of the last 5. One of those losses was to Penn State, one of those weird late season matchups, Big Ten, Pac-12.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if you're just going off of what Utah had last year, what they're bringing back this year, they're ranked. Florida was really up and down, more down than up last year. I think this line makes sense, and that's probably where it needs to be, 6.5.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think so, Andy. And I really think that Utah can pull it out. It seems that they have a really good D-line, and they play a stronger brand of defense, I believe Utah does, than the Florida Gators. And I think they have the power to reduce Florida's attack to one-dimensional, and that's pretty much its weakest link there. So without Anthony Richardson, the Colts starter not coming back for Florida, I really believe that they're going to be hung out to dry in this one. I got the Utes by 7, so I like the line where it's at, and even more if it tightens up a little bit.
Yeah, and it might do that. You do like to think that Utah could win by a touchdown, and all these different models I'm looking at, these points predictors, these who's going to win. You're looking north of 70% of all these models are taking Utah right now. Just a tough spot, tough opening matchup for a Florida team that's trying to find its way, even though they are an SEC school. What about that over-under at 45, Jabron?
Yeah, I mean, it's right there, Andy. Obviously, they said it correct, pretty much right on the dot. But I do have them winning 31-24, so it's right there. So if I had to guess, I would go with the under on this, just because I think Utah is going to defensively shut down Florida a little bit more than people think it's going to. So I would go with the under if I was going to bet it. I think I'm just with the Utes on this one, though.
And Utah's defense is supposed to be better. That's, a knock with all the Pac-12 schools. It gets kind of be a tired rhetoric, but they should be better, and I think they will be. Should we move on to a Thursday matchup here?
Let's Friday.
Right. Oh, yes, Friday. Central Michigan, Michigan State.
Yes.
We got the Spartans are a 14-point favorite. They are at home. This game's going to be on FS1, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 6 o'clock if you're in the Central Time Zone, as we are. Jabron, do you think Sparty can win by 2 touchdowns in their in-state rival?
Yeah, Central Michigan, obviously not the big school, or not the Big Ten, not, it's kind of a prenup game for the Michigan State Spartans. Central Michigan has a ways to go defensively, have so many new faces on offense. A trip to Spartan Stadium isn't the easiest opening game, is what I'm trying to get at.
No.
Michigan State is always good defensively, Andy. So I think they're going to give this new look offense, a lot of chances. And I do believe that they can cover this 14 points.
It feels that way on the surface, but I'm seeing a lot of sharps, they like to call themselves, taking Central Michigan here. I mean, it's kind of a coin flip when you're talking point spread of that nature, 2 full scores. But I am seeing some money pour in on Central Michigan with the cover. And what you saw out of Michigan State.
Yeah, no, I just think that is a lot of last year hangover, Andy. Michigan State won 5 games last year, and entering their 4th year in Mel Tucker's career there. I really think that left a lot of people with found taste in their mouth with how good Michigan State has been in recent years, for them to drop off like that. So I do believe that this Sparty could be a big factor in the Big Ten this year, but I just don't see Central Michigan giving them a scare. I really don't think they have the talent or toughness to scare the Spartans. So I got Sparty by 14. I think it'll hit easily. I mean, I think they win by three scores in this one.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it still is, a MAC versus a Big Ten opponent. And, a lot of people like to talk about it when the MAC does win, but that's few and far in between. That's not the mainstay. Usually rock the Big Ten, and they usually cover for you.
Yeah, and this is Michigan State. I know they won 5 games last year, but Nebraska only won 4. So if I'm going to that way of thinking, I'm going to change my whole way of thinking about college football. So, no, I got Sparty big in this one.
Well, if you got them big, what about that 45-point over-under?
Yeah, I think it can get up there. I think it's I would take it all the way to 47 with the over. I really like it. I will be betting that over as Michigan State pours it on these guys.
Hey, these large point spreads, you're hammering them in week 1, and they're coming through for you. So why change it up? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
That's the way. Nope, Sparty wins big, over hits. I like this game a lot. Hoping to win a bunch of money on it.
All righty, should we move to one of the night games?
Let's do it.
Louisville taking on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I think they got a new quarterback over there at Georgia Tech, and they are a 7.5-point home dog. Louisville is your 7.5-point favorite going on the road in week 1.
Yeah, Andy, ACC play starting in week 1. That's pretty cool. Louisville will usher in the Jeff Brom era.
Yep.
The former,
Purdue,
the former Louisville quarterback after a successful stint at Purdue. So this is a couple cool things happening this first week in the ACC. So Jack Plummer, he was a Boilermaker QB. He's the new look for the Louisville Cardinals now. So there's a lot to watch here, Andy. And I like this Plummer kid. He transferred to Cal from Purdue. So he's got a lot of experience, I feel. And I no matter what, Andy, I like the points here. This over is going to hit in this game. It's at 48.5 right now. I would take this all the way up to 55 points. I think these guys are coming out scoring. No defense in this game. This over is hitting no matter which way you're leaning.
So that's really what you're looking at is the over. You don't necessarily feel good about the Cardinals covering that 7.5 because I see about 70% of these predictors are saying that Georgia Tech is going to cover at home over a touchdown dog.
Yeah, no, that's a huge thing that I always look for, Andy, especially in week 1, week 0 matchups. If there's a home dog, especially when you're in conference play, I really like that home if they're getting over a touchdown because they're just something to it. Week 1, everybody's tight. Not all the offenses will be clicking. There's going to be a lot more defensive players that are going to play better. There's going to be a lot more blitzing. There's going to be a whole bunch more of that on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive guys are going to come out stiff. I really do think Georgia Tech is going to be able to cover this. I don't think they win, but I do think they cover. I think Louisville wins by a field goal at the end of the game.
I think that's a fantastic point. Defenses are always a little ahead of offenses early in the season. The timing,
No doubt.
those timing routes, everything is just not quite together quite yet. And defenses take full advantage, like you said, throw the kitchen sink at some of these poor offenses. And a lot of offenses nowadays are breaking in new quarterbacks, whether it's through the transfer portal or whatever the case may be. It seems like we're seeing a lot more new faces in new places these past couple years than what we're used to.
Yeah, it's the wild, wild west. Anybody can go anywhere at any time. Coaches, quarterbacks, cornerbacks, running backs. It's whatever you want. So it's all in the market. It's but it's what a time to be alive in college football.
Yeah, quarterbacks and their quarterbacks, quarterbacks and their coaches. Everybody just jump ship. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
So
ACC to Big 12 to SEC to Big East, whatever you want.
Well, let's take a minute to recognize one of our fabulous partners, and that is the Nebraska Brewing Company. World class in every glass. Don't go anywhere. This is WTL. And welcome back, everybody, to WTL. Where's the line? Nebraska's first and only sports betting show. I'm your host, Andy Klassen, joined by
Jabron.
Oh, the Parlay Pounder.
You got it. We're back.
Yes, we are, and we are back in a big way because it's college football week 1, and that's all we're talking about. All 4 segments devoted to college football and the true kickoff. We had a nice little teaser in week 0, a few fun matchups, but this is the full course meal right here.
Yeah, this ain't just one game that you might want to turn on, Notre Dame, Navy, whatever that was in week 0. We got any team that you could think of in week 1, and especially the Huskers. So let's go.
All right, well, let's look at this 11 o'clock kickoff that I know a lot of Husker fans are going to be tuned into. Colorado taking on TCU. This line is all over the place. I've seen it at 19.5, 22.5, and everywhere in between. Get it where you can find it. TCU's ranked 17th. Surprised a lot of people last year. However, they lost a lot of their team that did so well last year. That surprise team that made the playoff and did well all the way to championship. Colorado, we all know about Colorado and the turnover they have. And Primetime taking over the head coaching job. Find themselves over a 20-point dog in most books, and that's an 11 o'clock kickoff on Fox. What are your first thoughts here, Jabron? There's so much going on.
Yeah, Andy. I'm getting a consensus of about 20.5 the line. So, 3 scores, right under 3 scores for TCU. I mean, it's crazy for me to take Colorado serious right now. Mm-hmm. But they had to do something, Andy. They had to do something. They had won a combined 9 games in the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody's saying this is pretty drastic of Dion to, totally clean house and clear everybody out, but they needed to do something, and they're behind them on it, especially with the, the backers and the program and everybody, selling out for a team that hasn't won anything in a long time.
Yeah. They've been pretty dreadful the last 3 or 4 seasons. But I do think that Dion has brought in a lot of talent, definitely more talent than what they've had the last 3 or 4 years, more talent than they're accustomed to, and I think they got some really good starters. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards a lot of these pundits that are saying Colorado can and will cover. Early in the season, they might be all right with their top 11 guys on each side. It's when they got to get into their depth. That's where they're going to get exposed, and Colorado's going to have some problems. But earlier in the year, first game of the season, don't you think they could keep it within 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, I just don't really know, Andy, because I've never seen the Sanders play quarterback. He's been playing in the SWAC. This is the Pac-12. It's not the highest caliber of college football, but just like you said, TCU Horned Frogs were in the college football playoff. Like you said, though, they did say goodbye to its top 3 rushers, its top 3 receivers last year. Mac Duggan is in the NFL now. He's not the quarterback anymore. Yeah. But, I mean, both Colorado and TCU have a lot of production to replace, but I think it's far worse for the Buffalo. So, I mean, I just really think that TCU has a better brand of football right now. And I do believe that they are going to run it up on these guys, because who does not want to put Deion Sanders in his place, especially week 1. So I think the TCU Horned Frogs are going to come out for blood. I think they're going to pile as many points as they can on this young Colorado team. And I'm just saying, I think this Colorado team will give into it and forfeit, so to speak, and give up. So I do believe that this is probably a 35-point game, Andy. I think TCU smokes them.
Wow. So with that being said, that over-under at 64, you're thinking TCU might get there.
I do. There's a reason that it's up there, and it's not because of Colorado. I'll tell you that.
Oh, man. That's just so steep for me in week 1, and I know you're not afraid of a lot of these large point spreads, especially when you have two teams, one coming out of a lower division or the MAC or something like that against a Big 10 or a Big 12 school. But this is Pac-12 versus Big 12. These two teams will be in the same conference next year, right? Colorado's making the move back.
Yeah, I think that's the way it lines up. It's just just Colorado has too much to figure out, and I just don't believe that they've had the time to do it. The other thing that I really look into in this game is the TCU defense remains solid from last year, Andy, and that's good enough to keep the Horned Frogs in the thick of the Big 12 this year, I believe. Okay. I don't expect a return to the college football playoff or anything like that. I just really think that they're going to compete in the Big 12, and I really don't think Colorado has what it takes to be in the Big 12 right now.
Probably not, but I think they can hang in there within 3 touchdowns. Come on, Deion. Well, give me 1 week, not next week, this week.
There you go.
Split on that. I do like your over pick, though. I do like the over.
There you go.
All right, let's move on to another 11 o'clock game on FS1. The Iowa Hawkeyes, big favorites over Utah State. 25 points are the home team in Iowa City. Over under, though, is only at 45. How are you leaning on this one, Jabron?
Well, Iowa's coming off an 8-win season, kind of underwhelming to what they've, come to expect out of that team in the last, lot of years. They've been pretty dang good.
Yeah, solid.
Michigan transfer Cade McNamara is their new quarterback. That's pretty much what's highlighting the Iowa team and what everybody's, pretty, ready to go for on the Iowa side of this border. So Utah State, I don't believe is going to be as good as they have in recent years. There's a lot of production they need to replace and a new coaching staff outside of the head coach. I believe this is one of the more talented Iowa teams in recent memory to me. So I really like Iowa here. I think they lay it on these guys. I'm not scared of the 24 points or 25, wherever it's at. I think they're in a different caliber play. I like the Iowa Hawkeyes, and that defense is going to be there for them. Yeah,
defense is definitely going to be there, and there's an incentive-based pay put on for Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator, with what he has to get to. Utah State did go to a bowl game last year and did win 6 games. Yeah. So it's not like they're just your typical cupcake, and we have seen Iowa struggle in game 1s before. We've seen them have a real tough outing against, opponents of this caliber.
Yeah, no doubt, Andy. And like we said, with these massive lines for season openers, you tend to see some sluggish play, like you just alluded to. But I just believe that they're not going to be able to stop Iowa on the ground. And if Cade, tries to open it up a little bit, I do believe that this Iowa team does have potential on the offensive side of the ball this year. And I really think that they're going to try and, starlight that in this first game against a lesser opponent in Utah State.
All the models I'm looking at are split right down the middle. They think they got this. The odds makers have this line right on the button here at 25, and I think you're seeing half the money pour in on both of these teams here. With that over under, the total sitting at 45 points, and the point spread at 25. I mean, you can look at that. That's a product of how Iowa plays football. But man, there's not a lot of margin there. Like if you get one, it looks kind of hard to get the other, doesn't it?
Yeah, you would to hit both, you would expect that you would have to go with Iowa with the points and then bet the over with it and expect both of them to hit. It's just that's a tough call, Andy. I do like the Iowa a little better if we can find it 21 to 24 points.
Yeah.
Get that spread around there. 25 is pushing it. I like the 24. But with that 44 and a half, it does make you scratch your head a little bit thinking what these guys are thinking. If they're trying to split the money a little bit, trying to get people to bet one way and take the points on the other side. So, I'm going to stay away from that over under, but I do like Iowa to cover by at least 24.
All right, we got a little bit of time here. Let's talk another Big Ten matchup here in week 1.
Yeah.
2:30 kickoff on CBS. Big Ten's back on CBS. All right, what do you know? The number 3 team in the nation, the Ohio State Buckeyes, are a 30-point favorite against Indiana. The Hoosiers getting no love at home. Over under sitting at 59.
Yeah, this is one of those that they dangled up in front of Indiana and said, "You want to host one of the best teams in the nation week 1? Kind of highlight your stadium and all that kind of stuff." But it is I believe the NCAA is serving them up a pretty tough one here. I mean, it's 30 and a half points, Andy. I know that's a lot. I know that's hard for a Big Ten game and everything. The only way that I see that Ohio State doesn't cover this, Andy, is they get up by way too much in the first half and kind of call the dogs off. And, Indiana kind of falls back into coverage, in garbage time. Yeah. I still don't believe that's going to happen. I think they're going to be up by 4 touchdowns in the first half and continue to play starters all the way into the third quarter. So I'm expecting this to be right at I don't know, probably 50-7 at the end of this game. I believe Ohio State rolls in this one. They just got too much talent. Their offensive line is once again strong. They have NFL guys across the board on this offensive line. They are going to run all day on this Indiana defense that is they got some gaps.
A couple things to note here. Over 70% of the money is currently pouring in on Ohio State covering that, so that point spread is going to swell. So the earlier you can get it, if you are on the Buckeyes, get in on that. You're also seeing the total move down. It was at 61-60. Now I'm seeing it at 59 really across the board. How do you like that over?
That's another tough one, Andy. Obviously, they set it a little too high, and people started throwing money in on it. But this gets anywhere close to 56, 57 points. You got to think that Ohio State might be able to do that, with any help from Indiana whatsoever. I do have Ohio State at least scoring 40 points in this, and they could push it to 50. Depends on how much they have to put the gas on. So I don't believe that I am going to be touching this over under just because I don't have faith in Indiana scoring any points whatsoever in this. I know that the Ohio State defense isn't quite as strong as the offense, but this year is an experienced group of people for the Ohio State, and they're going to be able to contain everything Indiana throws their way. So I really like Ohio State to cover. I'm not so on board with the over-under, but I would obviously lean with the over if I had to.
And I'm going to agree with you on that on both fronts. And I also think the quarterback situation at Ohio State bodes very well for a lot of points being scored. It's still kind of up in the air who exactly the starter is going to be. And I think they're going to be battling it out. So when the other guy gets in, he's going to want to prove himself. He's going to want to open up the playbook. The coaches are for him to see what he can do. I just think it's a really tough scenario week 1 for the Hoosiers. So give me the points. I'll lay them down for Ohio State. And we can just sidestep that total. We don't need to get too wild in week 1, do we?
Yeah, for sure. I just know Ohio State's going to score a lot of points. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is, with receivers like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Julian Fleming. Those guys are going to score probably 2 touchdowns each. So Indiana doesn't have the guys to play with these guys, and they're gonna light up the scoreboard no matter who's under center.
All righty. Well, we got more college football lined up here, so don't go anywhere, folks. This is WTL. And welcome Welcome back, everybody, to WTL. Where's the line? Nebraska's first and only sports betting show. I'm your host, Andy Class, and joined by
Jabron,
the Parlay Pounder.
you got it. You got it. We're back.
We are back, and we aren't done. We're not done talking college football. I know we filled up the first two segments. We got even more coming up right here, right now.
You got it.
Before we look ahead, should we look back on some of our hits and misses from
let's do week zero. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, Andy, and a couple of them that we really told people to go after. Number one, I have to say, Notre Dame. They came out, they were a 20.5-point favorite over Navy. I think both of us kind of jumped on there thinking that was cupcake for them. I knew that they were going to, run it up on Navy a little bit. We knew that this new Hartman kid for Notre Dame is going to air the football out all season. Guy went for 251 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air. We knew that was going to happen. Good for Notre Dame. I'm not a huge Notre Dame fan, but I knew that they were going to do that, especially against Navy.
Yeah, and when you really start to look at it, it did look like Navy or Notre Dame had the upper hand and they were going to cover, even though it was an inflated line. There are a lot of those lines. You just can't get too scared, especially in college football this early in the season. And you kept it hot. You hit your second point spread pick as well.
Yeah, and that's pretty much reversing what we just did there. I did believe this USC was a little inflated. It was USC against San Jose State. 31.5-point spread, Andy. And, that is just so hard to cover, especially if you don't have a top-tier defense, which I do not believe USC does. Yes, they got the best player in college football in Caleb Williams, and he showed out. He had 278 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns. So you know that he is going to be there in the Heisman race, but they did not limit San Jose State on the defensive side of the ball. They ended up scoring 28 points, only a 28-point spread there. So, San Jose State really won some money for me because everybody was on that USC hype train.
No, that was an excellent pick. And the more I looked at San Jose State, the more it made more and more sense. Their defense wasn't terrible last year. Their offense was pretty good and is projected to be even better this year. And early on, that's exactly what happened. They put up, like you said, 28 points on USC's defense. And then we got a late pick in there, one that I was all over. I wanted to get it in there. Hawaii, the Road Warriors, the Road Rainbow Warriors. They covered 17.5 at Vanderbilt for me. Vanderbilt, an SEC school, went out to Hawaii last year, beat their brakes off. I mean, blew them out of the water. But this year, I just thought it was a different story. Still had Vanderbilt winning, but I had Hawaii with the cover, and that's exactly what happened. Ended up being a pretty tight game.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun to watch that game, Andy. Hawaii cut it to 7 points with only 4 minutes to go. They had a legitimate chance to win this game. And their coach said it even after, they lost still and everything, but he said, we're listening to everybody downplay us all week long, all offseason long, that we couldn't play with the SEC. And they were right there. They had Vanderbilt's back against the wall. Vanderbilt ended up pulling out the win, but covered in big fashion.
Hey, that's all I was asking for, and that's what I got. So pretty good for us, going 3 for 3 on the point spread college picks last week. Got to be happy with that. Great start. And we're not even started technically. This is week 1. So
that was just a teaser. We're going to get even better as the time goes on. So, well,
let's get into this week's matchup. Another Big Ten matchup. I'm going to say this one's going to have a little bit more competitive balance to it compared to Ohio State and Indiana. We're talking about the Wildcats, Northwestern, traveling to Piscataway, New York to take on Rutgers. Rutgers, 6.5-point favorite. I'm seeing across the board here. They're also collecting the majority of the handle at the pay window right now as far as bettors leaning towards the Knights.
Yeah, Andy. No matter at the end of the day, this is still Big Ten football. These are still, teams that Nebraska, well, I know that we play in Northwestern for sure. So this is definitely something Husker fans will look into, especially with us losing to Northwestern last year, with us being their only win in the Big Ten. But I really, I really see Rutgers. It's going to be a close game, but I do believe Rutgers has the advantage here, especially playing at home. The line's sitting right there at 6.5. Some places still have it at 7, Andy. I really do believe Rutgers wins by probably 10 points. I do like the 7. I like the 6.5 even better, though, if you can find it there.
It's got to be tough for Northwestern. All the turnover, the coach, getting the axe there late in the game,
Yeah.
And the current coaching staff kind of backing their old ball coach, whether it's with T-shirts, banners, whatever the case may be. It just feels like Northwestern, they're reeling right now, and I don't know how they're going to necessarily compete here, especially early on. This is a Sunday game, right, on CBS, 11 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, so they are in the limelight. They're on Sunday football right before NFL starts, a week before NFL starts on Sunday. So they do got a time slot here for them, and they're going to be, highlighted here. But yeah, with the Northwestern, just the way that it's going, from a PR perspective, I don't think they've ever been anywhere worse than this. I guess that could be good for him on the field as a everybody against us mentality or whatever, but I just don't believe without Fitzgerald this football team is going to be on a right foot this year, and I just believe Rutgers probably has a little bit leg up in this one. And I think their defense will feast on that new Northwestern offense. So I like Rutgers. I like them by 10, might be by more.
The continuity alone should favor Rutgers in a big way here. And this line, interesting enough, the over-under is moving down. Was it 40, 41? Now it's all the way down to 39.5, getting bet down. And it makes a lot of sense at second glance because neither of these offenses you're impressed with. And if there's one thing Greg Schiano's teams have been known for, it's their tough defense. So, who's going to be scoring these points in this Big Ten Week 1 matchup? Who knows?
Yeah, no, I don't. I have this game sitting right at 35 points, Andy. I don't believe it gets any higher than that. I just don't see where the points come from, like you alluded to. And I think Rutgers' defense is just a little bit too good for Northwestern. So I like Rutgers. I like the spread, and I would go with the under if I had to. Might stay away from that one just in case any funny business early morning on Sunday.
All right, let's get to the big matchup everybody's talking about. Sunday night, couple of top 10 ranked teams here. Florida State is playing host to LSU. The 5th-ranked Tigers are going on the road, and they find themselves 2.5-point favorites. That kickoff is at 6:30 on ABC. The over-under, it's going up. It's climbing. Was it 56 earlier today? I see it at 56.5 consensus across most of the books. And I think it's going to keep climbing because these two teams can fill it up.
Yeah. No, Andy, I like that. That's the first thing I want to say is I like the over. These two are going to score a lot of points. This is pretty much the coming out party of the college football season this year. This is the marquee matchup of the weekend that everybody wants to see, a top 10 matchup, especially with two big names of college football, national champion winners, Florida State versus LSU. It doesn't get better than that. So I like 60 plus in this game for points to be scored.
Whoa. Yeah. And you're not alone watching this line climb up here. Last year, Florida State got the Tigers. Everyone's thinking the revenge factor's at play, but you're going on the road to Tallahassee to play Florida State here. I don't think it's going to be easy sailing for the Tiger team here.
No, Andy, and it's not. Admittedly, to me, this is a tough game to predict, Andy. I just think this is two of the best college football teams in the country right now. But I think I do like LSU edging the win. I do believe it's a field goal at the end, though, either way. So I would back LSU. LSU is the play for me. But you got to look at that money line for Florida State, which is sitting at a plus 120 right now to win at home. I think that's as good as bet as anything. But I do like LSU to win at the end here. But I just don't know if they cover, especially if that gets over 3. It's at 2.5 right now, so I do like that. But if it gets to 3.5, I would probably back Florida State.
Yeah, you like the hook there at 2.5. That still gives you the field goal win. We're on a key number right there at 2.5. You also have year 2 of the coaching staff being intact there at LSU. So there
Yeah.
should be some much improvement there, especially when you're talking week 1, as it was last year in the same type of matchup.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Had a whole year. They look really good at the end of the year. I thought LSU, I think, is back, and this is a statement game for him if there ever was one. So I get that Jordan Travis is on the other side of this ball for Florida State, and everybody's hyping him up a lot as the quarterback for Florida State. But I do believe LSU's defense is going to be really, really good this year, and I think they hold Jordan Travis in check week 1.
Okay, I'll buy it. It's hard to bet against at the SEC in week 1. I don't know why. That's just the way it is.
Just the way it is.
All right, should we talk about a Monday night game?
Yeah, Monday Night Football.
Top 10 team Clemson's on the road taking on Duke, where they are a 13-point, talking about key numbers, 13-point favorite. This is on ESPN 7 o'clock kickoff, 55.5. You got the hook for your over-under.
Yeah, Andy, everybody that's talking about this game is talking about the quarterbacks, especially on the Duke side, which is pretty surprising. Riley Leonard is a potential superstar NFL caliber quarterback. Everybody's putting him in the top 10 of mock drafts this coming year, especially for teams that are in the need of a quarterback. So this is pretty crazy to see a line that's, almost to 2 touchdowns. It's 13 points towards Clemson right now with the over under of 55. So it's pretty crazy to see that Duke is such a, dog at home, but everybody's talking about their quarterback. I just think that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it really doesn't add up. And you're also seeing the majority of the money being poured in on Clemson. I think we're talking about the brand power of that previous matchup, Florida State, LSU, and then you see kind of a 50-50 breakup. Here you got Duke versus a traditional power, or a recent power anyway, in Clemson.
Yeah.
And I just think people are betting the name. They're seeing the Clemson Tigers.
Well, I'll tell you why, Andy. And it's that Clemson defense is so tough. It's just really good. That we are really going to see this Duke quarterback and see if he can lay it on. I hate to put so much pressure on him in week 1, but this is how you get your draft stock up, is to go against a top tier team like Clemson that has NFL caliber defensive players on it and take it to them. So I do like, I like Duke covering in this game. It is one of my more uneasy ones of the week, though, just because Clemson is a top 10 team. But again, I really think they're going to be slow coming out of the gate, and if this Duke quarterback's as good as everybody's saying he is, he's going to keep him in the game. So I really like I would like it to be 14, but it's at 13 right now, so I might have to wait around and look for a better line.
I really thought we were going to split there because I was backing the Dukes. I think Duke can get there as well. Week 1, all the things you just mentioned there, and Clemson's kind of been underwhelming, really. If we're honest, the last couple of years they have been. So you heard the horn. We're up against it, so let's take a minute to recognize one of our fabulous partners, and that is the Stock and Rod Company, an outdoor lifestyle brand for those seeking adventure. Whether it's hunting, fishing, hiking, they got you covered. Visit stockandrod.com to get your wild game on. Don't go anywhere, folks. This is WTL. Yeah, welcome back, everybody, to WTL. Where's the line? Nebraska's first and only sports betting show. I'm your host, Andy Class, and joined by
Gibran.
Oh, the parlay pounder.
You got it.
How we doing, Gibran?
Good. Ready to throw up those bones for the Skurs.
I was going to say, we talked a lot of Big Ten football. We talked some Pac-12, Big 12. Now we got to get into the matchup that we're all thinking of, and that is the Thursday night kickoff between the Minnesota Gophers and the Nebraska Huskers. Nebraska really opened this up as an 8-point dog really across the board. That line has slowly been shifting down, getting a little tighter. I think you can still get it for 7.5.
Yeah.
A lot of books have moved to 7.
Yeah, Andy. It's I think just a lot of red people, pouring into the books and shifting that line. Um, I think more and more people are beginning to think that this new guy at Nebraska, Matt Rule, might have something under his thumb, especially this first game against PJ Fleck.
Yeah, might have something up his sleeve as we're seeing that line creep down. Interestingly enough, the total is actually moving up. It's
Yeah,
up at 43. I'm seeing right now, and this is going to be a 7 o'clock kickoff night game on Fox. Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson, the whole 9 yards. Everybody's going to be on hand. You can bet Joel Klatt's going to be interested because being a Colorado alum, and then he's gonna. I think he's on the call next week too. Nebraska, Colorado. So
yeah,
that's kind of an interesting game for him to be calling.
yeah. No, he's always one to. He always says he's not against us and unbiased and everything, but that being from the Buffaloes, he has a little distaste for the red end. So no, that is good, Andy. The thing with Nebraska here, Andy, all eyes are on Jeff Sims, the transfer quarterback from Georgia Tech. Everybody's saying he's a dual threat guy. We really haven't, you know, our quarterback play over the recent years. We can really stem to us losing games late, by an interception or a fumble or anything. Not naming names or anything like that, but everybody's saying that this guy might be the missing piece and really going to be able to take over games late.
Well, but he also has that caveat. He's turnover prone as well. And it's like it doesn't matter if we have a dual threat guy, a pocket passer. It just seems like our quarterbacks in the recent years, anyhow, have liked to kind of turn it over. And that's not all on them either. I think a lot has been put on our quarterbacks' plate, especially when you're talking about like Adrian Martinez. Maybe we asked him to do a little too much. And of course, he felt the need to perform and do too much. This game's interesting because Minnesota's gotten the better of the Huskers last 3 or 4 years. And last year, just look at it at face value. Minnesota went 7-3. Nebraska 3-7. I think this line makes a lot of sense. I thought it made enough sense even over a touchdown, 7.5, 8 points. It's really tough here. If you take the fandom out of it and all the rule and all the fun, people leaning towards Minnesota, it's hard to argue with them.
Yeah, Andy. Obviously, if you look at stuff face value, especially, not being from either place, not being from Nebraska, not being from Minnesota, not familiar with the teams, you just look at last year's record, you would obviously have to go with the Golden Gophers here and say, wow, that's not weird that they're a 7.5, 8 point favorite or even a touchdown. It's just that Minnesota lost 3 of their last 5 games against the spread in 2022, Andy, and that's before losing their top 3 offensive players to the NFL. They were so good on offense last year. They had 3 really good standout pieces that all went to the NFL, Andy. The Cornhuskers, on the other hand, pushed or won against the spread in the last 5 of 6 games overall and pushed or covered it in 3 games on the road. So Nebraska, for all you can say about them, even if we're not going to win, it seems that we're always in those games, and I think that's even going to be even more apparent under Matt Rule. So I like us to cover here, Andy. But me, what I'm looking at right now is that money line bet sitting there at plus 215 to take down the Gophers up in Minneapolis. That's just too good a value for a team that I think is just as good as Minnesota.
Oh man! Oh boys, you are on the Rule aid for sure. And Coach Rule did just have a press conference a couple of days ago, and they asked him about how important it was. I forget who it was, a World Herald guy or somebody. How important it was to get off to a fast start. He goes, "I'm never going to talk about fast starts. It's how you finish. How many times did Nebraska have a lead early in the game in the first half and then let it slip away?" And I also like how he takes ownership of it. He's not putting it on the previous staff. He's saying we did that. So I really like that message talking about it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And if that's the mindset going in and him saying that, hey, if we get down by 17, so what? We're still going to fight, scratch and claw our way back into this one with hopefully having a chance to win the fourth quarter. With that type of mentality, it makes a lot of sense to me that they're going to at least strive to be close late in ball games, and that means be within a touchdown.
Yeah, Andy. Other crazy thing that I've heard Rule state over and over, quote, every time he gets on the mic is that on multiple occasions talking about special teams, and it's this
Mm.
really the strength of his squads, and that could win us 2 to 3 games a year. So that's
Yeah.
really refreshing to hear, especially that's how we've lost games in the past, especially close games, with a muff punt, a punt to the other side of the field, an onside kick, or just really bonehead stuff that Nebraska's done in recent years that it just didn't look like we're sharp at that. It really seems to be, a point of emphasis for this coaching staff, and I really, really like that going into this game.
Yeah, and speaking of special teams, Tristan Alvano, the freshman kicker out of West Side, made the game-winning kick in the state championship. We were both there, had a
You were
front row
there.
seat for that. Awesome game. Congratulations to that young man. I think he's, kicking with a lot of confidence. And the fact that they gave him the nod kind of late in the process here, but still, the longer it went without them naming a starter, I thought the more it felt like they're going to go with the youngster.
Yeah, I think they're just giving him more and more opportunities to, get kicks, watch them go in, all that kind of stuff, getting kind of, settled in to being a D1
Yeah.
Big Ten kicker. So I really do believe they gave him the confidence he needs. And this kid could be one of our big pieces for the next 4 years. So I really, really like that they went with the youngster here. And I'm really excited to watch him play. So if it comes down to it, this could be a signature moment for him at the end of this game. So I'm really excited for him and really excited for the special teams unit to roll out on the field to see what kind of improvements we've made.
Well, if it comes down to an Alvano kick, the Huskers are covered. So
Yeah.
I like the sound of that. Speaking of easing a new guy in, Minnesota, for the first time, it seems like in 8 or 9 years, they have a new quarterback. What do you
Yeah.
think of this guy?
Well, Andy, I was going to bring that up as one of my points for why I'm backing the Big Red. This guy, Colin Kamanis, is ranked 67 out of 69 among Power 5 quarterbacks in the nation by 24/7 Sports. These guys do their homework, figure it out, and this guy is last among the Big Ten field. In starting quarterbacks. So that's a big reason that I do not like Minnesota this year. They don't like this guy. Everybody peering in seems to think he's not the guy except for PJ Fleck. So I can't say anything about PJ Fleck. Put back-to-back 9-win seasons or, whatever
Yeah.
it is up there. But this guy, I don't believe is the guy. And I believe that if there's any way that our defense gets off to a good start, it's against a guy of this caliber. So I like Nebraska coming in defensively against this guy, especially in his first game in the Big Ten.
And Fleck's really trying to poo-poo a lot of that talk, and protect his guy, rightfully so.
Yeah,
But
for
he's
sure.
saying this is a system type of deal that we brought from Western Michigan, the whole 9 yards. And they're a power rushing team. He talks a big game. He's got his Oakleys on. He did some, whatever surgery and all that stuff, but they really are a smash mouth football team. And that has given Nebraska fits over the years.
Yeah.
You still don't think this fit with the quarterback, with the rushing style offense, you still think there could be some struggles there?
I still don't think they know who their guys are, Andy. They lost, Tanner Morgan to the Pittsburgh Steelers, really
Yep.
good quarterback for them for years. And then their leading rusher, Muhammad, last year, he lost him to the pros as well. So I don't believe they know who their next guys are. They're not a huge recruiting, powerhouse or anything like that. So I think
Right.
they're trying to land on these guys that have been there for a little bit. Like we said, that this quarterback that's taken over, he did play a little bit last year for Morgan when he was injured. Just went 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. So I don't believe that that's a small sample size, but I just don't believe Minnesota is done with their personnel. And I really like that we're getting him early in the year, so PJ doesn't have the time to scramble that he's going to at the end of the year when he's coming down the stretch. So I like him right now. Everybody's kind of high on him because of their high flying offense last year, but it's not the same personnel. It's new guys, and I don't believe this quarterback has what it takes to play in the Big Ten.
We got a little bit of time here. You said you like an in-game prop. What are you looking at?
Well, Andy, right now, obviously I like that money line bet at 215. Another one that I really like, Andy, is total points for the Huskers. If you look down the line, it's at 20.5 points on DraftKings Sportsbook. For us to go over that, it's at a plus 135. I do believe we can score 3 touchdowns against the Golden Gophers. I think that plus money is really good right there at a plus 135. So I'm taking the Huskers to score at least 3 touchdowns, to at least score 21 points. I think that plus 135 is just too good of value to pass up.
Hey, I like that plus money. So if that's your train of thought, you can see why this total is moving up. Currently at 43. Do you want any of that action?
Yeah, Andy, I do believe that it's going to be right there. I have a hard time going with the over or under in this matchup, Andy, just because I don't know these offenses good enough to put points to them. So I would like to say it gets there. I really like Jeff Sims. Obviously, I'm drinking the Roulade a little bit, but I do believe that we can get 21. But I almost think that might be enough for us to win the ball game as well. So I might back the under a little bit, but I really think the 21 points for the Huskers will hit. I'm banking a lot on that Husker D.
I think we're both in unison as far as taking the Huskers covering this point spread. But you like them winning outright here, don't you?
I do. I like the plus 215. Most people have got it at 250 earlier in the week or this past weekend. So I do believe Big Red's going to show out. I believe it's going to be loud up there for us. I just think it's time to usher in the new system. I don't believe it's going to be a face plant like last year in week 0 with Northwestern. I believe this is a new crew, a new team, a new path for the Huskers.
Well, I and everybody across Husker Nation hopes you are right. I'm not quite as bold as you, Jabron, but I do have Nebraska covering pretty good for a week 1, you got to say, especially in prime time Thursday night.
No doubt. Yeah, and it's always going to be tough, taking on a Big Ten opponent on the road, but it would sure go a long way with the Husker season to open up like this, especially going to Colorado next weekend.
Well, that'll about do it for us this week, folks. That's a great segue there because we're going to be talking about Colorado next week. Be sure to follow us on ESPN Tri-City Radio, the Facebook page here. We're also on Twitter, giving out picks each and every day. Our YouTube channel, we've eclipsed 2,000 subscribers. Thank you. Thank you all who have subscribed, has caught some of our shorts. Like to have a lot of fun on that channel. We also have some daily picks on TikTok. For all you TikTokers out there, be sure to look us up on WTL. That's the handle. For Jabron, the Parlay Pounder, I'm Andy Klassen. Thank you for listening. This has been WTL.